Hey guys, it's Asa with Really Fresh Aquatics, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up your first aquarium. Don't forget to subscribe. An important thing to know about the aquarium hobby is that it is not cheap in the slightest. And for the purpose of today's video, we're going to be setting up a 10-gallon tank. I'm not actually setting it up, but I'm going to be showing you guys what you're supposed to do. And for a 10-gallon, we're going to set the limit to about $100, but that's more of an estimation more than like actually what you'll end up spending, because there are a lot of variables to what you can choose. But it is highly unlikely that you'll be able to get it for under $100. Things you're going to need to get are obviously a tank, a filter, a heater, a light, and an optional option of a lid. Now let's get into how to not go broke on buying the tank, because if you were to go to Petco and look for a 10-gallon tank, chances are they're going to be selling them for like $30 each. But if you go on Facebook Marketplace, you can probably find a 10-gallon tank for like maybe $10. I don't know if I'd spend anything more than that on a used tank. My light just went out. Whatever. Now, if you go to Petco during their 50% off sale, you can get obviously a $30 tank for 15 bucks. I believe that is a steal, personally. Although they used to do $1 per gallon sale, but in the past few years, like ever since COVID, I think, they haven't really done any. But with their 50% off sales, I believe they do them like every start of a new season. So like winter, fall, summer, spring, all those. I'd be surprised if you randomly go into Petco and there's a sale going on. Next part is the lid. In my opinion, lids are kind of optional depending on the fish you want to get. Like if you're wanting to get a betta, chances are you're gonna want to get a lid because they like to jump out. Do your research on what fish you want to get, because that can depend. And if you don't have to spend the money, why spend it? It is good to get a lid if you want to keep the water in and not deal with it like splattering out, I guess, from your filter. Then I would recommend getting a lid, and just in case if a fish decides to jump out, it is for the best. You can usually get lids for like $15. Sometimes you can get lucky and get a lid that has a light on it. You're gonna obviously want to get a light fixture so you can actually see your fish. Plants, a light is very much recommended. But make sure you read the reviews on those, because sometimes they like to break very easily or harm your fish, make them go blind. So just do Amazon research on that. As well as for the light, there's one major thing that will affect your purchase. For example, me, I have divorced parents, meaning that I am not at this house 24/7, so I can't be there to turn on the lights. But I had decided to invest in lights with automatic timers so that every 10 hours, I believe, it resets itself and can like do on and off. Usually, I would say lights are gonna run you about $15 to $20. It depends on where you buy it off of. If you wanna grow plants, chances are you're probably gonna wanna buy the $20 ones. The more expensive usually is the better. And the next part is getting a heater. Most fish in the aquarium hobby, or at least freshwater, are all tropical. Unless if you decide to go fishing and then like put it in a tank, that's on you. But regardless, you're gonna wanna get a heater. I would recommend getting a heater that will not explode on you. Because the last thing you need to do is come home and find out that your house burnt down because you left the heater on. Except with most heaters, you kind of should be able to leave them on and they should be fine regardless. Personally, I believe that you can get like a decent heater for like $10 off of Amazon, maybe $12. We want our fish to live comfortably and not just surviving. So make sure you give them what they need. And lastly, for our tank supplies is a filter. Filters are very controversial because you either like sponge filters or regular hang on the back filters. I personally am team sponge filter. They are usually cheaper, easier to clean, and they usually don't cost much in the long run. They also are very beneficial to your fish because it pumps oxygen into their water, which is what they need to survive. Usually hang-on filters struggle with that. I'm gonna be linking a little bubbler kit that comes with the sponge filter and the actual like pump. I believe it's like $15. It's not that bad in my opinion, because you could spend $20 on a hang on the back filter, $15 on cartridges, and then you have to replace those cartridges every few weeks. That's a lot of money already, so don't do that. And next on our list is aquascaping, or technically decorating, but like aquascaping sounds better. For the purpose of today's video, I'm gonna be going over kind of like a naturalistic kind of setup. I personally don't like using like treasure chests or any like decoration stuff that you would get, like the SpongeBob houses. I don't think that those are necessary, because I believe that mimicking their natural environment is actually pretty cool to look at. All we're gonna need is a substrate. Usually what I do is I put soil on the bottom and then I do a layer of sand on top. You can choose either or. I also like to do a lot of plants, rocks, and some driftwood. I personally would say that substrate is the most varied thing on this list. That is because substrate you can either get for free or you can actually go to the store and buy some. So our first option is you go outside and you dig up some dirt. The only bad part about that is whatever microorganisms that were in that dirt and sand is going to be in your tank. Usually you can wash them pretty good, but you don't want those to kill your fish. The second option that we have is you could go to your local Lowe's or I don't think convenience stores. I forget what they're called, but you could go to one of those stores and you could buy a bag of Child's Play sand and you could buy a bag of garden soil. Those are usually like $10 each, meaning it's like $20 for both. Not that bad of a deal, but down here I have different setups. I have a shrimp tank that has Lowe's soil, and then I have tanks that have like actual professional fish keeping soil. If you guys can tell, this doesn't necessarily look as good as this because of what's being let off by the soil. Now, it's not necessarily any more dangerous to your fish, in my opinion at least. It's more of just a looks kind of thing. If you want it to look clear and not really yellowish, I would recommend just doing the next option I'm about to say. And if you don't have an issue with it, then go ahead and buy it. And the last option for the soil is you could go to your local pet store, Petco. I'm personally not the biggest fan of Petco, but I'll tell you guys more about that in a future video. You could get like a bag of soil and aquarium sand for like $20 each. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but that sounds kind of expensive. That's $40 for just substrate, which is kind of insane, but to each their own. What I'll usually do, because I like having a lot of tanks, is I'll buy them in bulk. So I would rather spend $30 on a large bag than spending $20 on a smaller bag that'll only last me one tank, when I can just use the $30 bag and use it for more tanks. But if you're just wanting to get a small little 10 gallon like this video is intended for, just get the cheaper one. Next on our list are plants. Plants vary a lot because there are so many different kinds of species of plants. What I recommend you do is don't go to the store and buy like a gigantic $20 aquarium plant, because in case you guys didn't know, plants grow. That means that if you were to buy cuttings, they could grow into a giant plant in no time. You just have to be patient. I personally recommend buying cuttings over buying a whole plant. You can usually, if you go on Facebook Marketplace, there's usually people selling their cuttings, or sometimes aquarium stores will have cuttings available that are kind of usually cheaper. I would say that if you wanted to buy like 3 different species of plants, they would probably be like $8 each for some cuttings, which would be obviously $24. And again, these plants will grow, and I don't know if you can really tell, but these tanks are all planted. And I only have, I believe, like 3 different species in there, and those were all cuttings. And it all started off in one tank, and then I put it in another, and then another, and another, and another, and another. Next on our list of things are rocks. Rocks are also something that can vary a lot, except there's really only like 2 options. You can either go outside and gather some rocks from the outside world, or you could buy some aquarium rocks. Aquarium rocks are usually like $10 to $20 if you just want like small little pebbles. But if you want like larger rocks, those are usually going to be like $5 to $10 each. But personally, I believe if you can go outside and get them, do it yourself. All you need to do is just rinse them off with some warm water and maybe scrub at them a little bit, but otherwise, that's all you have to really do. And lastly, we have driftwood. Driftwood, personally, I tend to usually buy it because we don't have any rivers around where I live. But if I am in an area where we can go and grab some driftwood, then I will obviously go and get it. Regardless of if you buy it from a store or if you buy it or if you collect it from a river, you're going to want to boil it. Boiling it will kill any bacteria and will usually allow it to kind of sink better because it's called driftwood because it drifts. And if you boil it with warm water, will want to sink because it fills itself up with water. But if you do go to the store and buy some driftwood, I would say it's going to cost like $10, maybe $15, depending on the size. But like for a 10-gallon tank, it'll probably be like $10. But if you do have rivers around you, or if you're like going to the beach, I would just say tear off a chunk of something in the water and bring it home and then boil it. There is also an option of being able to bake them. It's like, I believe you put it at like 220 degrees and you set it in there for a couple hours. Don't quote me on that because I have no idea. But the only reason I don't do that is because I don't want my house to burn down. So the 3 things I would recommend that we get are a siphon or a pump, depending on your situation, which I'll go over that in a second, as well as some chemicals and a net. The chemicals I think that you should get would be a CO2 booster so that you can have more carbon dioxide in your tank for your plants to benefit off of. I also think that you should get some water conditioner so that when you do water changes or when you're setting up your tank, your water is good enough for your fish and it won't kill them. I would also recommend getting a water test kit. I'm putting that under the chemical section because it usually has to use chemicals to figure out your nitrate, pH, and everything else levels. So I would just recommend getting a test kit. And I would say for all those things, it's probably gonna cost you like $30, but I do believe it's well worth it in the end. But if you don't want it, you don't have to get it. No one's forcing you to. Next thing would be a net. Nets, in my opinion, aren't insanely used all the time, or at least I don't use it all the time. Because when I do water changes, I leave my fish in the tank. I don't take them out. Other people do that, but you don't have to. It just makes it a lot easier when you're putting your fish in the tank initially, because you can put them in there easier. And lastly, we have a siphon. A siphon is kind of like a must get. Like you have to get it if you're in the fish keeping hobby. It's that, or you could maybe cut off the end of a hose and do that. But I still think getting a siphon is so much better because that's how you clean your tanks. You have to siphon out all the water. The only exception to that would be getting a automatic siphon pump. I have one of those for these lower tanks because the way that gravity works, if you have a bucket or whatever you're trying to siphon out at the same level as the tank, gravity won't want to bring it over. But if you have it like up here, gravity will want to bring the water down to the bucket. But if it's at the same level, it won't do that. So an automatic pump is usually like $25 to $30, but just a regular siphon, I wouldn't spend any more than $10 on it. Now let's run all of these numbers. And as I mentioned earlier, this hobby is not cheap, so try not to be too scared by this. that number was crazy, at least in my opinion. If you have the money for it, by all means, spend it. Now, don't let this price discourage you, because there are a lot of things that you can take in and out. Like, you don't have to do substrate, you don't have to do plants. You could really decrease your price a lot, but if you want to put your fish in their natural habitat, then you're likely going to be spending a little bit over $100. That's all for today's video, guys. I plan on making a couple new videos on what kind of fish you should get for your first 10-gallon tank, or also like what kind of plants to put in your first 10-gallon tank, or just really anything with 10-gallon tanks, because that's kind of what I specialize in. I have a lot of 10-gallon tanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications for future content. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment.